We're live.
Okay, yeah, it records too.
Slow down, you move too fast. Gotta make the morning last. Kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun, feeling groovy. Da 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 da, feeling groovy.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are today. Welcome to the bridge. And this is episode 108 today. We're just moving right along in the 100s, and we've got a very special guest for us today. And I'm going to have him introduce himself in a minute. But Sandy, have you got a quote for us?
I do. This is by Margaret Mead, and she said, always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else.
Perfect.
Okay,
That
so
was true.
that is very true. So, Junior Maldonado, he and I go way back. I think, well, maybe almost as far back as Sandy and I go. But he's a former student of mine, and he was always a very star student, lots of high energy, and he is a very powerful man right now, with a great role. And so, Junior, tell us about yourself and what you're up to, and then we'll kind of get things rolling.
Oh yeah. Well, first off, Sue, thank you. Sandy, thank you for having me on your podcast. Like Sue said, I was a student of hers, and I really appreciate Sue. And obviously, Sue is a big part of my journey, right? Sue, remember the first time I met you? I went into your class, and I was like, "Hey, what are we gonna get out of this program here?" You remember that? I was like,
I do.
"What am I gonna learn here? What's my end goal here?" I remember having that conversation with you.
That's right.
And the stuff you told me was interesting, so I signed up, and that was a good time. Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And I love the fact you pushed the envelope right away.
Oh,
I knew
yeah.
you were right away.
Well, what do you want to know, Sue? Like, as far as like my career, here at the casino, I started here in '98. I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Fresh out of jail, literally, and moved to Washington. And I remember my mom had given me, she was like, "Hey, you should sign up for the Marines. You should go to the Marines and get your life straight and everything." And it was interesting. But then I put in an application here at the casino and for a housekeeping job. And I got a phone call, but I kept bugging them. Like, "Hey, is there a position? Is there a position?" "No, there's nothing available, Junior. There's nothing yet. There's nothing available." Finally, I got a call, and they're like, "We got an opening for you." So I came in. They put me on graveyard, and they're like, "Your first job is you're gonna be cleaning the restrooms, the toilets and the urinals." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll do it. I'll do it." I was like, I was happy because I was already doing it when I was locked up, So, but now I'm getting paid, so it was cool. Started out as housekeeping and did that for a few months, and then it moved up to a department called heavy duty, which is more of a deeper cleaning and maintaining of the building. And then during that time, I think some of the leadership here at that time noticed something in me that I didn't see. But they asked me if I wanted to be a supervisor, and I was 18 years old, and I was like,
wow.
I was like,
yeah.
I don't want to be a supervisor. Like, I can barely supervise myself. What are you talking about? Like, I actually declined it, you guys. I declined it because I just didn't feel like I was ready for some responsibility like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So time went by, and believe it or not, like, when I was at work, I worked very hard. I was a very hard worker, but again, I was 18, so I had issues of getting up and coming into work. My attendance wasn't the best. And I remember the manager at that time, his name was Gilbert Salinas, great dude, and God bless his soul. He passed on. But he was like trying so hard to keep me here. He's like, "Man, Junior, I see the potential in you, man. I want to keep you, man, but your attendance." I'm like, "Look, man, I'm a straight shooter too, I said, Gilbert, do what you got to do, man. You know, he goes, well, I'm sorry, Junior, we're going to have to let you go. So they let me go, you know, so I was gone for, I think it was like a summer. And then I came back. I eventually came back. There was an individual named Virgil Spencer, who's a tribal member. He helped get me back into the building, and he got me back in, and he did a great job, man. Like, he would pick me up at my house. He would take me to AA meetings and stuff like that, just to help me get things right in order to come back to the casino, which I'll always respect him for that. When I came back, I came in as a junior engineer in the engineering department, which is a maintenance department. Then I worked my way up in there and did a lot of stuff, learned how to weld, learned how to work on cars. I mean, a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of everything, plumbing. And it's a lot of skills that I still use to this day. You know what I mean? So it's been really awesome. And then one day I was like, you know what? I want to jump into entertainment. It just seems interesting. We have White River Amphitheater down the road. We have live entertainment here in the casino. So I went to school at Art Institute in Seattle to be an audio engineer. And I initially went there to learn about studio recording, audio recording for live sessions, right? But then there were some classes in live entertainment, and I started changing my interest to live entertainment. Plus, we had White River Amphitheater, and during that time, I was able to get a job at White River while I was going to school. So that was really unique and interesting, because what I was learning, I was able to apply in the real world, you know, so that was really cool. And I had a more unique situation than all the other students, because I had that opportunity. So I would come back to class and say, hey, man, look at what I did. Look at what I learned. I got to apply what they're teaching us here, you know? So that was cool. And then eventually I got into live entertainment here at the casino. So I was working full-time at the casino, going to school full-time, and working at White River Amphitheater as a second job all together. So I was just learning. Like I said, Sue, I like to learn, you know, and I took advantage of it when I was younger. So I did that for years here at the casino. Very passionate about it, loved it. But just one day, you know, I went on a trip to Hawaii with my fiance now, and something changed. And I was like, you know what? I want a different challenge. I want to be challenged. I've been doing this for a long time. It's starting to get stagnant. I need something new. And it just happened while I was out there. You know, when I got back, I met with the general manager at the time, and I said, hey, I want out of entertainment. And he was like so concerned. So he was like, what's going on, Junior? Is everything okay? What's going on? I'm like, everything's fine, man. I said, I want to enter the business leader program. And and at the time, they were only allowed to have 3 tribal members in that position. And I asked, can you open another one for me? And he says, well, let me talk to your council, you know, tribal council. And he came back. He's like, dude, they were all excited about it, and they approved it. He's like, so they got me in there. And that's when I started learning stuff on an executive level. And to be a business leader, you have to have a minimum of 5-year management experience. And you got to have an AA or BA, really a BA, but you can have an AA. But once you get in the program, you got to work on a BA. Well, I already had both. So I was already in many years of management. So I was qualified, right? So I got in there, and you go through each department on an executive level and even frontline, just to understand the entire business, which is awesome. You get that exposure. You understand how each department affects the other, and it helps you make better business decisions. So during that ordeal, I had an opportunity to help run support ops, because the individual running it ended up retiring or leaving. I can't remember what it was. So they asked me to step in. And I did that for a while. And then I was in gaming, and the executive director of gaming, he ended up leaving. So they asked me to step in and run that department, which I did. And a lot of my progression here is because either somebody left or and they plugged me in, and I would just excel with it, right? And then eventually the same opportunity came as a COO. So, you know, the previous COO, he left, so I stepped in and eventually earned the permanent position, which was awesome. You know what I mean? A lot of hard work. And that's where I'm at right now as the interim CEO. So our CEO, he retired a little early. So now I'm in that position. So,
Oh, here you go. Another ladder to pursue.
oh man.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, I know you as a high energy person and loving to learn, absolutely, and enjoying having you as a student. You perked up the classes with your questions and your, you know, just wanting to be there. And you know what I notice, and I'm not sure it's always been true, but it sounds like it's been true at least since you were 18, which is pretty young, is that you never had a job you didn't love.
Yeah, that's a good observation, Sue. The one thing that I give credit a lot to my dad, he he got me and my brother into construction at an early age, and he taught us hard work ethic. And that's always there, So I mean, we hung drywall with them, but even when we were younger, we used to scrap the houses, and clean out the houses with all the scraps, and then we would stock the houses, which is a very physical job. And hanging drywall is a very physical
Yeah,
job.
it definitely is for a young
So
person.
oh yeah, yeah. So we did that for years, and that's where I learned that hard work ethic, and but what was funny is that my dad always said, you're gonna be a hell of a drywaller, Junior. And in the back of my mind, I always knew I'm not gonna do this the my whole life.
Right?
I was like, I want to do bigger and better things. You know what I mean? I always had that in the back of my mind,
Yeah.
and so that's it started there, and always I'm always been a curious person.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I ask a lot of questions when we're in class, you don't learn unless you ask,
Right.
and one thing that you learn is you learn to ask the right questions,
Mhm.
so, and that's where you really start excelling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, you were engaged in your learning process, and that makes a difference.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and he was hungry, he was hungry to learn. And it was wonderful because his energy, you raised the level of the class, And, the other thing, two things that pop out at me that are really important in leadership. One is decision making and one is hiring, which is sort of both. And if you can ask the right questions, you can make decisions that are effective, and you can hire the right people because you're asking them to think in front of you, and then you
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell their quality.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Sue, and I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of people here,
Mhm.
On executive levels too.
Yeah.
So not only are you looking for their skill sets and knowledge and experience, but how do they fit with the existing team?
Yeah.
That's a big piece. How are they going to work with that team here?
Yeah.
That's where you start looking at those personalities, the
Mhm.
soft skills, the emotional intelligence, and how do they navigate with the other
Sure.
executives to get for one common goal. So that's the tricky part. The
Yeah.
other part is some people do so well in the interviews.
Yeah.
They just kill it, they nail it, but when you bring them on, it's like like you don't see everything.
Right.
So you start getting better at asking the right questions to fish that out.
Well, one of the things I was going to say too is less turnover means that you have more money in the bank, because when you're having to invest over and over and over again, that's costing you money, and that's also costing your team. When you can get a good group of people that work smoothly together, boy, that is like, that's hitting the gold star.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That turnover, man. And you're right. It costs money to bring somebody through orientation.
Right. Well, and the thing is, you're a problem solver at a different level when you're trying to put together a team. It's almost like putting together a puzzle. You're getting the right pieces. And not only the hiring's important, but I have a hunch that you're with your direct personality that you're pretty good at handling conflict with people.
Yeah, and that's true, Sue. And the other thing is too, when I interview, you gotta lay out the expectations from the beginning so they understand what they're walking into
Yeah.
and what's expected, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And always be fair and just, especially at the executive director level, allow them to flourish with their skills and knowledge.
Yeah.
And micromanaging is not good.
Mhm.
You're hiring for a reason, and you got to have a certain level of trust
Right.
to allow them to execute their job.
Mhm.
And if you're constantly finding yourself micromanaging, then you might not have the right person in that role.
Right.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But during that process, you gotta try to coach them. There's coaching that you do to try to steer them in the right direction and try to help them before
Right.
you go to another route. So
Yeah.
it's a
You're
lot of navigating through people.
it is, and you're not only are you a good problem solver, but you have to um, know a lot about people because you are trying to help them to be their best.
Correct. And Sue, there's one, to be honest here, I'm a younger executive. I'm 45 years old. And I've gained a lot of respect and trust from my work and my knowledge because I've been here a long time. I wouldn't be in this role if I didn't have those qualities.
That's right.
But it is a little interesting sometimes when when you're having to try to coach and give advice to somebody that's a lot older than you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting position to be in. It really is, but it comes so natural for me though to do it. At first, when I first started doing that, it was like, oh man, I'm telling somebody a lot older than me, that probably can school me on some of this. But when we're done with the conversation, they're like, thank you, man. Like I needed to hear that, so it was awesome. Like you look beyond the age and you just looked at what were we trying to fix here, like what are we trying to get out of it?
Yeah.
That's been interesting a few times.
Sure. But how rewarding for somebody more mature than you to actually listen, and that to you, because they respect you.
Yeah.
And you're not coming in arrogant. I've never perceived you to have an arrogant bone in your body.
Yeah.
You're very humble but very truthful.
Yeah.
And so there's a piece of credibility there that you've earned.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was going to say, because you worked your way up from the bottom, Junior, all the way through, that becomes an urban legend. People know that story oftentimes. And so then that helps them understand you've been there, done that. You're not talking just off the top of your head. You really have experienced. And I think that also helps people listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And some of my previous executive directors that helped build me up here, they still check in with me just out of respect to say, how you doing, Junior? I heard you moved into this role. Is there anything I can do to help you? Just recently, when I got into this interim CEO role, a guy named Johnny Walker, which I respect a lot, he called me and said, how are things going? And I said, Johnny, one of the things that I've learned in my journey is that you're not the smartest guy in the room, man. It's like you have to utilize everybody's skills in that room for one goal. And then he goes, dude, by me hearing you say that, he's like, I know you've grown, Junior. I know you've grown. You're not the smartest one in the room, and be humble enough to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, being a good leader is recognizing that in other people and then giving them opportunity to come forward, because that makes what you're doing sustainable. You're helping to get ready, people ready to be able to take different positions in the system, and I think that makes it healthy.
Yes.
Well, and the fact that you've managed to keep those connections all the way up with people, you're an excellent networker. Not that you necessarily have to keep track of everybody, but they come back to you because you've left the door open. And another term that we keep hearing over and over with lots of leaders is that they consider themselves to be servant leaders. not big bosses, you
Yes.
know, and that's serving the people and being there for them. And, you know, so I would consider you definitely a servant leader. Um, and then one thing that I'm curious about, because, you know, you have a great personality and it's been with you forever. And you were, the work ethic was instilled with you when you were young. But you know a lot of people, and the people that you consider entrepreneurial. And I'm thinking that there's probably quite a few roles at the travel at Muckleshoot that are very entrepreneurial. I'm sure your entertainment one was. Um, what traits would you say that kind of showed up when you were a kid? Entrepreneurial traits.
Wow, that's a great question, and this is gonna be a good one here, actually.
We're waiting.
I'm asking my questions.
I mean, Sue, that's a great question, and it's funny because I've shared this story with a lot of people. Is it all started when I was really young? We lived in Fresno, California, in a neighborhood called Cala, and it's the hood. It is ghetto. It's the hood there, right? And when we were younger, we're like, how can we make money? How can we get some money? To do things. 'Cause we grew up poor. We didn't have anything.
Right.
Well, we knew that everybody in our neighborhood, they're all drinking beer and doing whatever they're doing. So what we would do is we would go to the local grocery store, borrow a basket, and we would walk the neighborhood and pick up all of the cans and recycle whatever we can find in the neighborhood. And there was a recycling facility near our neighborhood, and every day we'd go over there and take cans and get money. And the neighborhood was noticing this with me and my brother and my sisters, where they were starting to just save all their cans and put them in bags and leaving them out for us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just out there trying to find ways to make money. That little entrepreneur mind just was there.
Yeah. Nobody else thought about it, or it isn't always just the thought, it's the action.
Yeah, the follow through and then the reward, at the very end. And what was awesome was where you take your recycles, they pay you out cash, and right next door to it is the neighborhood pool, community pool, and everything. So we would go and play video games, and we did this every day, like in the summers, and that's where it started.
Yeah.
And then as things progressed and you start learning, I've opened up a restaurant called, I partnered with a friend of mine, Zach Johnson, and we opened up a barbecue restaurant downtown Seattle called Meaty Johnson's. And we're going on year 3. The momentum was there, the revenues were coming, and we're building momentum. But then you had the BLM movement, because we're right in Capitol Hill. Right. You had that BLM movement where there was a lot of protesting and rioting and all that stuff, and every restaurant around us closed, but we stood open the longest. We were winter grinding, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. You remember COVID hit during that time too. So so that hurt the business, and we tried very hard. Like, I was leaving the casino to go work there sometimes and help out, just to try to keep it alive, because we invested some money into this.
Yeah, right, sure.
But unfortunately, we had to close. And recently, in this past December, we opened up a food truck. So we're still doing those things, it keeps things exciting and it's fun.
Yeah.
Diversifying.
So been in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, diversifying.
Yeah, and the fact that, that entrepreneurial spirit is in you. It's been in you since you were, and it kept itself going, because every time you tried something, you got rewarded. Even if it wasn't always monetary, it was that love to learn.
Yes, and Sue, you guys in the casino industry, we're in multiple industries within one building, right?
Right.
Hotel, food and beverage,
Mm-hmm.
gaming, sports betting. I mean, you name it. We're doing a lot. That flourishes with who I am in order to keep things live here. Right. Yeah. So we're doing a sports book expansion coming up that we start this year. that I had been working on for about 2.5 years. And
Yeah.
you guys will see it's going to be the sports book in the state of Washington. And it's amazing. And I had the opportunity to work with the designers and come up with this concept.
That's
And
cool.
we're going to start building it. And it's just exciting. And that's that rewarding entrepreneur. It feeds my entrepreneur, you know what I mean? To do these type of things.
Absolutely. And that's something that I know the communities wanted for a long time. You know, you're fulfilling a need. So I want to ask you a question since, excuse me, got a drippy nose this morning. With that entrepreneurial spirit in you, and you know, within the casino, there's lots of places where someone with an entrepreneurial spirit would flourish. What might you look for in somebody that you're hiring? What trait, what entrepreneurial trait might you look for in someone? And maybe how might you see it?
Yeah. For number one is, you know, their creativeness.
Mm-hmm.
Tap into that trait and see, you know, how creative they are. And you'd be amazed on all of our executive directors are all very creative. They're all alpha type personalities. And, but it's also about execution from an idea to reality. That's a key.
Yeah.
Because anybody can come up with an idea, you know, but there's, you know, you got to take into consideration your budgets, your schedule. You want to try to mitigate as many change orders as you can as you're doing. And I'm speaking in regard to how we handle things here in the casino. So, but number one for me is just creativeness, and how do you get the team around you to buy in what you're trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's once you get a buy-in from frontline to the other executives, it becomes an exciting project, and it goes over to the guest, right? If we're excited about it, the guests are they're gonna know that.
Yeah,
you know, so it becomes exciting for the guests.
Yeah,
I think you said something important too, Junior, in the fact that you're saying you had been working on this project for 2.5 years. Oftentimes we think we should be able to do something in a fast way, and you're showing that by step is how you got to where your new project is that you're going to be working on. And I think people sometimes want it quick and easy, and it oftentimes, like you've already talked about, it's hard work and it takes time, and having the right team to work with. It is not a fast-paced situation. It's one day by day, oftentimes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, and I want to go back to the classroom that I know you from. You always brought high energy. And so that's one thing you're going to look for, at least in a leader, is a high energy that will transfer to the team. So what would be your number one, maybe you have 10 things, but what's 1 and 2 of how you are going to get the team to buy in? What would be a strategy that you'd use?
The best one that I've seen my whole career is you got to get everybody involved, even from the beginning, you know, and allow people to give their input. But make it very clear that you can't honor everybody's ask, you know, but the ones that make the most sense, you can, and it creates a sense of pride and involvement, and that creates buy-in, you know. And then sometimes when somebody comes up with an idea during the project, and you rather than just saying no, we can't do that, you need to give them an explanation as to why. Help them understand it, right? Help them understand it. Really, that's what it is. It's just get everybody involved and make it a team effort. And let everybody else have some ideas in it, you know, and give credit when somebody does make a good recommendation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's more discouraging to people in the workplace that they have their ideas adopted by someone else and them going off acting like it's their idea. You always need to give ownership to the people that came up with the thought process.
And I see that so much.
Oh, I know. I
I see it
know.
so much, and I'm like, oh my God, like
Yeah. It's
here's a great example. Like, sorry guys, my allergies are just so bad out here. But I'm working on a new carpet design with a designing company for the casino. And I was told that one of our council members had asked for a certain like um, animal tracks in our main walkways in the casino because we have a distinctive carpet through your main walkways.
Right.
Well, somebody threw that out there a couple of years ago. I was like, that's a great idea. Why didn't we do that? Why haven't we done that? Well, fortunate enough, we're in the phase where we want to go to a different carpet design. Well, I incorporated that idea into this design, and everybody's like, wow, Junior, that's a great idea. Did you come up with that? I'm like, no, it's one of our council members that did.
Yeah.
You need to give that credit, like. And what's cool is that the council member doesn't know yet. I'm going to be presenting it to him next week.
Oh, very cool.
So he's going to be
Love
like,
that.
I thought that up like years ago, and now we're bringing it to life. So
oh
you
that's
got to give them credit. It's a team effort. It's never one person.
yeah.
Right. Right.
And that trait is humility.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And not needing the credit for anything. Actually, when you're the big person, you need to not take any of the credit. So I've got another, I think it might be an entrepreneurial type of question,
Okay.
because what I know about, well, it's something that I've learned over the past 20, 30 years to get better at is following my gut, my intuition. Talk to me about, is that something that's been hard for you to develop into, like me, or is it something you've always just been, oh, this is in my gut, I'm going to go with it?
That's a very good question. I trust my gut because 9 times out of 10, it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to my experience of going through the business leader program here and being able to go through every department. So I have that experience to make a better decision. So my guts, it's more reliable.
Sure.
If that makes any sense, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But
the terrain, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's something that I do fall back onto quite a bit actually, because a lot of times I'm right, and there are some times where I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll admit it when I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But there at this level as a COO or CEO, you don't have a lot of room to make these big dollar mistakes.
No.
So you gotta, again, it comes back to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And ensure that it's going to be successful.
Right.
If it's not successful, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-mm.
You learn from it, right? And just don't repeat it, and,
Right.
and do it better, maybe.
Yeah.
But in this role, you got to follow your gut, man. And
yeah.
a lot of times you hear people say, Junior, if your gut's telling you don't do it, or if your gut's saying do it, then do it.
Yeah.
So I do tend to follow on that.
Well, and it's important. And it's, a track record helps, but it's still, that's part of that entrepreneurial, the gut's telling you to do it. And, I call it jumping off the cliff when you're an entrepreneur. You have to be a risk taker.
And, so a lot of times, a lot of people tell me, they're like, Junior, you're unique because I have a lot of street smarts and book smarts. And when you tie it together in this environment, it goes a long way. Like we deal with so many different vendors, so many different contracts, and I'm really good at sniffing it out. Mm-hmm. and making sure that we get the best, the best agreement contract for the tribe.
Yeah.
So it's unique.
Well, one of the things I wanted to point out too, Junior, is customer service is thinking outside the box, good customer service. And what happens is that we set up a template and we train people to follow that template. But at that same time, we need to give them permission to be able to think outside the box when they have a unique situation. Because I've seen people over and over, or you get on the line, and you're trying to get help on some situation. There's some people that are willing to do whatever they can to get you to a solution. And there's other people that they can't think outside of that template. So like you said earlier, you want people that are creative and follow through. And that's part of, yes, we're gonna use the template. However, you also have permission to be able to do what you need to do to have a good solution come to the people you're working with, whether it's your people you're ordering things from or whatever. I mean, we use that over and over again. And I think sometimes we've ceased giving humans a chance to be able to critical think about what to do and the next step. And I think that's a sad situation because you see the difference in how people get the help they need.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to encourage people to make decisions when it's needed, you know, and there's nothing worse. Like, for example, you know, we do like top player dinners, and I attend and help host, and we take some of our top gamblers on trips out of the state, and sometimes I'll go and host, and that allows me to build this relationship with these top players, and they're comfortable enough to give me some real feedback, right? And there's nothing worse than taking feedback and then doing nothing about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And again,
Mm-hmm.
right. And again, there's some things that you can't do because it's a big ask, and there's some things that it's a great suggestion from our players. You know, like everyone's experience what we're offering, but again, there's nothing worse than getting that information and not enabling our team to actually make adjustments and execute it. You know, so you're absolutely right. You're right on that. Guest service is a big thing in this industry.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
It's a huge initiative for us in 2026, where we just hired, it's been less than a year, a guest experience manager. And we're really putting a lot of time in developing this program to train all of our team members for one common goal, one guest service goal, but each department interacts with guests in a different way.
Right.
So you have to do a strategic training per department as well as an overall expectation for guest experience. So it's a bigger deal, but it's something we're working on, and it is high priority for us.
You know, I remember teaching, I can't remember if it was a communication class or a marketing class, but the best thing you can do when you have a new customer is to make them a loyal customer, because it's harder to get rid of a loyal customer. And that's that relationship building and giving them a little bit of autonomy to build that relationship.
100%. So now when I meet these guests, I'm me. I stay who I am. I'm true to who I am. And these guests love it, you know, and now if I walk the casino floor and I've seen it, they like yelling my name, you know, and then they'll give me a hug or, you know, and I just built that really trust relationship. And I'll give them honest feedback, and they're like, you know what, Junior, that's why I like you, man. That's why I love you, because you know, you don't feed me any BS. And I'm like, look, I'm a gambler too, you know, like I don't want to be told something that I want some real honest, you know, responses. And
absolutely.
But I love mingling with our top players and all of our guests. They're people just like us.
Yeah. Right. You're building a community.
Yeah.
And they can tell, and that's part of the networking, but it's also part of the loyalty. And it kind of all fills the pool with nice warm water.
Right. So every casino has machines, slot machines. In this, Washington is called VGD, because video gaming device. Everybody has table games. They all have restaurants. The only thing that makes us different is the guest service.
Yes.
That's where you become different.
That connection.
It's all about that experience when they walk in that door to when they leave. You know, that's where you make yourself different from the competitors.
Yeah, that's what keeps them coming back.
That's it.
And bringing their money in. That's true. So I got one question, and I don't know. I think you will feel comfortable maybe asking this, but I mean answering this. What's the twinkling light out there? You have a what's next?
For me?
Yeah.
Look, I think, you know, it's always been a goal of the tribe since the casino opened to have a tribal member running the business. and I'm obviously, the tribal member in that the closest to that role. I do know, we're going to bring in another individual here soon, and the goal here, I'm being told 3 years that I will be the next CEO.
Mhm.
So that's the big thing for me. From a professional standpoint, is I'm 100% focused on executing that role. And during this interim, during this interim time, it's really opened my eyes to see what it actually is like to be the CEO,
Yeah,
and I like it.
yeah,
Right, I truly feel that that's the right role for me and who
yeah.
I am.
That's great.
Yeah. So from a personal level, my next thing is I'm gonna get married next year.
Oh,
That's the big twinkle light in my personal.
That's
lovely. That's a good goal. That's a good goal. Well, and one thing I know about you is you're not, I mean, not that it's been made competitive, but you're not afraid of competition. You
Not
just,
at all.
you go in and you're just yourself, and you shine.
Yeah.
You just, I am just so proud of you, and
Thank you.
so thrilled to have been a part of your life and your academic life, and to foster some of that creativity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your fiance, Junior.
What's that?
Tell us a little bit about your fiance.
Okay. She's beautiful woman, man. Her name is Janie Chen, soon to be Janie Maldonado. She's Cambodian.
Okay.
And I met her here at the casino. Yeah. She worked here for 16 years in the marketing department. She worked in the promotional part within marketing.
Mhm.
So she executed well, she did like the weekly giveaways, and she did promotion. She was like the person on the stage with the mic doing the promotions with the players. So we met here, and and she's been great. She makes me a better man.
Nice.
Like she has seen me grow as well.
Right.
And she's seen me get my degrees, and she's seen me grow up and just become who I am today. And I know she's very proud too.
Good. Very
Yeah,
good.
she's a great woman.
Yeah.
When
Great
you're
cook.
with the right partner, you bring the best out of each other. I think that's what the journey is when you are getting married. Is you can be better for it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing more great things about you and your life. And so we kind of wrap up by um, saying what's one takeaway from this conversation today. So, Junior, we'll start with you. What's a takeaway from our conversation?
Yeah. I enjoy these kind of conversations. I really do. I guess the takeaway is always push yourself. Just these conversations we're having, and you're kind of having me reflect on from the beginning to now. And my takeaway really is I'm going to just continue pushing.
Good.
I'm going to continue to do the best that I can for myself, for the company, and the people around me. But the biggest thing that I at this point in my career is I really like to inspire people to do better, even individually. I enjoy identifying individuals within a company that I see potential
Yeah.
and bring them up. So I'm getting to that point in my career where I want to help develop and bring these people up, because you're the next ones up. And that's kind of my takeaway. So I thank you both for the reminder to keep doing what I'm doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Sandy, what's your takeaway?
Well, the takeaway I see is mentoring, exactly what Junior is talking about. Is he's at a point now where he really sees the opportunity to be a mentor to others, and his dad was a mentor in helping him come up with a good work ethic. He talked about the gentleman that would pick him up and bring him to work and that kind of thing. You had mentors throughout your life, Junior, and you're turning around and passing that. You're going forward with that for other people. And that's a great gift to give to others, to be able to be there and share what you have learned through your experience. So that's
Yeah.
very cool.
Well, my takeaway is I feel like I've just been to an awesome reunion.
I agree.
To have a nice conversation with you and to hear about your flourishing life. And like I said, I'm just so very proud, and I want to thank you again for joining us. I want to invite you to come back if you ever want to come back just to have another conversation. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And if you have anybody who wants to join us, tell me, and I'll recruit them and see if they'll come. And like I said, this will be posted on Substack a little bit later today. So
You're awesome. I really appreciate you, and like I said, and I mean it, you were a big part of my journey.
Thank you.
So it's great to see you, and I will forever be thankful for what you've taught me.
Well, thank you.
And Sandy, very nice to meet you too, and I
Nice to
appreciate
meet you, Junior.
the recap of what I'm saying and the feedback too. So you ladies did a great job, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you for joining us.
I'm going to push the stop record, but I want you to hang on. We do a little process debrief. Okay, let's see if she can find the right button.